time. Competition season has me reflecting every year that I've done it, and I'm glad to be here once again. It has me reflecting on what's important to me about coffee, what's important to others, and just my role in this whole supply chain. We all have our individual roles in the supply chain, and it's all just as important as the step previous and the step after to us. The coffees that I will be brewing for you today are two Colombian coffees blended together. The first coffee comes from Antioquia, Colombia, and it's produced by Jaime Lopez. It is a natural processed coffee that has a fermentation submerged in water for up to 90 hours before it is dried. The second coffee is an anaerobic wash process by Wilton Benitez and Cauca. This coffee goes through two fermentation stages with different levels of pH of the water. For the second stage, it is depulped and then dried. And going back to the first stage, I missed one important part is there is a specific yeast strain that is added to this fermentation. I chose to blend these two coffees at a ratio of 60% Jaime Lopez to 40% Wilton Benitez. And for my espressos, which I'm going to start on now, we're going to have the specs of 19 grams to 41 grams out for the espresso. And for the milk, we're going to go 19 grams in to 38 grams out. For my signature drink, we're going to go back to the original recipe and do 19 to 41. And I will get back to that in just a moment, explaining why I made those choices. The reason why I chose this coffee is because Colombia itself is very important to me. I spent my formative years in Bogota, Colombia, before I even got any interest into coffee. Now, working in coffee, I see how that time relates to my role in this industry now. Along with the personal connection to this coffee, at Methodical, we have two specific relationships with two Colombian coffee importers. Those are Unblended and Tío Conejo. And I thought, what better way to represent our connection as Methodical and as an individual in this industry by blending together coffees from two of our most important partners. Now, back to our espresso. Please write down these flavor notes. We're going to have raspberry, chocolate, and cherry. The weight is medium, the texture is round, and the finish is a pleasantly dry but floral finish. Another reason for blending these coffees is how they work well together. And what I mean by that is the natural process has a lot of winey notes on its own, a lot of fruitiness, but putting the double anaerobic wash together with it balances out that acidity, but also adds a great floral note to it. I see this espresso course as a way to represent the farmer's work in this coffee. But also as a way to represent my own touch on how the coffee can taste. I don't have any specific protocols besides the ones established in the rules for enjoying this espresso. So please enjoy. For this milk course, I've decided to pair these two coffees with a lactose-free coffee. The reason for this is because it's sweeter than coffee with lactose. And I found that this paired really well with my coffee. Along with that, the flavor notes for this milk course are going to be melon, floral, and chocolate. Please also add to this flavor notes the note of nutty. Now, going back to our important role in this industry, I found that the milk course allows us to better present coffees to customers who may not be comfortable with coffee on its own or black coffee as espresso. So I find it as a relatable entry into this industry. This lactose-free milk pairs well with my coffee because not only does it balance it, but it also elevates the floral characters in this coffee and brings out that lovely nutty finish that I mentioned earlier. Please enjoy these milk drinks, and please excuse myself as I
Round of applause for Austin's milk beverages, y'all.
As I finish up my signature beverage. All right, so building out my signature beverage, we're gonna have 2 double shots of my espresso that have been chilled. This cools down the acidity and helps it pair better with the ingredients I'm gonna add. We have the mixed berry syrup that I'm going to add first. This mixed berry syrup has raspberries, strawberries, and blackberries in it. The second ingredient is an oleosaccharum, which is basically a blood orange peel mixed with sugar to pull out its oils. The berry is going to complement the sugary, sweet flavors of my espresso and elevate its fruity qualities. The oleosaccharum is going to elevate the acidity. And then what I'm going to add right here is a saline solution. This is important for the next step. That step is we're going to start the drink with Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic. It's 120 mils of Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic, 40 grams of the berry syrup, 20 grams of the oleosaccharum, 2 drops of saline, and my 2 double shots of espresso. We're going to take those ingredients and we're going to blend them together to give it even more texture. And then we're going to add it on top of the tonic. This is going to go over the tonic, creating extra foam that adds aromatics. The flavor notes for this signature beverage are going to be raspberry, orange peel, excuse me, and my favorite note that my 3-year-old son came up with, along with my wife, which is a melted triple berry popsicle. Please consume this by taking 2 sips, but enjoy the aromatics first. It's been really a pleasure to enjoy this experience with y'all. Hope to see y'all again. And thank you for being here. And I want to remind you that each one of your roles in this industry is important. You're special, you're important, your work is valued, and we couldn't do it without you. Time.
Hands together for Austin Bowers, Methodical Coffee, Greenville, South Carolina. It's good to hear, my friend. How did that feel?
Nervous wreck, but...
Nervous wreck? Oh, come on. You're a pro. What do you do for Methodical?
I am a team lead at our downtown cafe.
Yeah.
I had barista, but also like a cafe manager
And
role.
you still found time to put this together. That was
Yeah,
incredible.
somehow with
Yeah.
2 children and
Right.
you know how it is.
Yeah, I do know how it is. Yeah. Actually, Emerson visited your shop years ago on my
Okay.
way to competition in Atlanta.
Amazing.
Yeah. How do you find time to like pick a coffee, and what do you look for in a coffee for competition?
So I think one important like idea that I find is tasting the coffees that we serve in the cafe and think about how it will pair with other ingredients or drinks that are fun to me. I love experimental coffees, but I also want to highlight coffees that may not be experimental, but are like important to the industry still. So just being able to cup coffees on my own time, trying coffees in the cafe, and just seeing what's exciting to me about this coffee. And even before the competition started, I already knew I wanted to use a Colombian coffee.
Yeah.
But
And that Colombian coffee sat underwater for 90 hours
90 hours, the first part of it.
and added yeast to it?
So it's a blend.
It's
So
a
the
blend.
first part is the natural underwater for 90 hours, then dried. And then the second part is the double anaerobic washed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what does being underwater for 90 hours do to that coffee?
Sure. So what the being underwater creates is acetic fermentation. So it creates more acetic bacteria or invites acetic bacteria to the fermentation, which brings more body, more acidity to that coffee.
Awesome. And then you blended it with the coffee that was yeast inoculated?
Yes.
And that does what?
What that does is so the yeast inoculation, putting the yeast in there, lets specific yeast strains dominate the fermentation. So it creates specific flavors. That yeast specifically is used in the beer industry for like crisp lagers, and it just creates really good lactic body and some floral notes.
Cool. Do you have some questions?
Do you have any shout outs?
Ooh, maybe too many. First of all, I'm gonna start with my wife Lindsay, and then I'm gonna go to my 3-year-old son Kanan, who is back in South Carolina, in Georgia, with my grandparents. My daughter, who is over there, she is less than a year old, but we like to involve our children in coffee competitions. So I brought Kanan when I did Brewers Cup Nationals in 2020.
I remember that.
But along with that, we're going to go with my coaches, Christian and Steve Kim. Christian works at Methodical. Steve worked with me in Virginia, now works in DC. We also have so many people in the audience that I want to thank, but you know your important role. We have David, who's one of the owners of Methodical here. We have people from Blanchard's that I really love, and they've always supported me. They kind of like inspired this whole wanting to compete. My parents, the farmers, Jaime, who I had a phone call with a few weeks back.
Jaime's here, right?
Jaime is not here.
Not here. Okay.
I don't believe so. I think Wilton is. Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all.
Yep.
One more round of applause. Austin Bowers, Methodical Coffee, Greenville, South Carolina.